Magnanimous in defeat. I'm saying this as I'm talking into a cat's backside here. Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch with myself, Kate Tracey, Andrew Mount and Dave Young to look ahead to British Champions Day at Ascot. We're going to cover all the races on the card. We don't have time for other meetings in this section. If the lads want to take us to any other meetings over the weekend for bets, then they are free to do so. But for now, we're going to focus on what is sort of the last day of the flat season proper then, with 4 Group 1 contests, a Group 2 and a really competitive handicap on the billing as well. Now, hopefully we won't get as many non-runners as we did last week. And there are a whole load of interesting market drifters as well then last week from some of the horses we put up. But Andrew still did manage to pick out a couple of winners. Strike Red at 6-1 in the Sprint Trophy, and Shadow of Light, of course, who eventually went off as even money then in the Dewhurst, but tipped up at a much bigger price for the late non-runner there. And again, the weather has played its part, but of course we know that the inner track is now being used for Champions Day. They've made that switch early, at least, to give us a heads up anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see what ground we are running on. Right, lads, we will get stuck into the action, beginning with the 120 at Ascot, the Group 2 British Champions Long Distance Cup, 3-year-olds and over 2 miles. Kyprios, 4-5 favourite in here, Andrew. So you're going to try and get him beat or not?
I think I will. He did get beaten the race last year. He has been on the go since April. And I just get very bored of this division at the moment because Kyprios turns up, beats everybody else, and we get small fields and non-event races. I think this one's a bit deeper than what we've been served up most of this season, and I'm hopeful that we'll get him beat, or if we don't, at least we'll get something to finish second or third each way that won't do much damage with. The obvious each way play for me is Trawlerman, last year's winner, beating Kyprios by a neck in this race that time, and being by Golden Horn. I think there could be much more improvement for this ground, which is the softest, likely to be the softest he's ever encountered. He's only had 2 runs on officially good to soft going, none on soft or heavy, and those two runs produced, to say, a win in this race last year and a third in the race 2 years ago at 20-1 behind Trusha. So certainly on breeding, the more muds the better for Trawlerman. I think backing him each way at 9-2, you're going to be unlucky if you're not in the first 3. Al Nahir wasn't so keen on, a bit worried about the form of the Tom Clover yard. They've had a lot of shortish ones run very disappointingly in the last couple of weeks. Sweet William, I was also wanted to be against. So one of the bigger prices I'm going to bet each way as well as Trawlerman is Alsakib for Andrew Balding. Now, this one I can see 80-1 with one of the firms. Bombed out at York last time, but that was on quick ground at the Ebor meeting, finishing 7th to Vauban. And before that, he was a winner from Al Karim on good to soft ground over a shorter trip at York and mile 6. And the 3 times the 3 sort of softest goings he's raced on, according to Proform's going allowance, have resulted in 2 wins and a third to Royal Rhyme over 10 furlongs at Goodwood in Handicap Company last year. That was over a woefully inadequate 10 furlong trip. So he's got form at the track. So I'm going Alsakib each way at sort of 80-1 and Trawlerman each way at a much shorter 9-2.
Yeah, with the 3 places on offer, Alsakib 80s back over, of course, who's won, and Trawlerman at 9-2 to take on Kyprios heading the way. And good cases made on the ground front as well for that one, Dave. You concur?
I don't know. It's a difficult one because I got Kyprios wrong, didn't I, in the Gold Cup back in June. Andrew said that he'd win. We looked like he was back to his best, even though the RPRs might not have done that. So Andrew was right then. I guess I was half hoping that Andrew would still be confident on Kyprios, and that might make me want to lean that way. But they've had a couple of duels, didn't they? Like Andrew said, Trawlerman got the better of him last year. That was a pretty clever ride, I thought, because Kyprios went out in front, didn't he? Was not necessarily idling out in front, but potentially got a little bit lonely. By the time that Trawlerman had got to him, there was enough time for them to sort of rally back if Kyprios was good enough to go by him. But Trawlerman stuck his neck out and got the job done. Now, when they ran against each other last time, Will Buick was on for the first time, and he made the run in. It was over 2 mile 4, wasn't it, in that Gold Cup? So Trawlerman was trying that trip for the first time. But Kyprios then sort of got the slingshot run on him, and as much as they both rallied, Kyprios got it in there as well. So without knowing who's basically going to commit first, I don't know which one of them to side with. Andrew's bang on that Trawlerman, 9-2 top price you can get. It's the biggest each way thievery bet ever because he's got to be in the frame, hasn't he? I guess my heart's winning a little bit that Kyprios was go and get the job done. 4 to 5 doesn't look a terrible price. I think as it stands at the moment, while he's 4 to 5 and Trawlerman's like top price 9 to 2 and 4 to 1 in places, I might lean with Trawlerman being the bet. But if Kyprios was to become weak in the market for any reason, which I don't know will happen, but if he went sort of odds against, I'd be quite happy to have a little go on Kyprios, I reckon. The only one at a bit of a price, because same as Andrew, we've got 9 runners in here. I thought there might be something a bit of value further down. I started to look at the Euphrates a little bit that won the Irish Zerowich first time stepped up to 2-mile-ish trip. Was pacemaker in the Irish St. Ledger for Kyprios, but actually stayed on quite well, even though was well handled by Kyprios in the end. But I just wonder whether, as much as he's in here to do a job, he might still be able to tow him for like sort of long enough that he might still be able to hold on for third. I wouldn't be looking for a win purpose because he is just there to be shot at. And 3-year-olds have got a bad record, haven't they? Stradivarius was beat, Cereric was beat at 3, so can't see him winning. But you might be able to get 6 to 1 sort of place only on the Euphrates. But when I start saying that, and then I think to myself, you could just back Kyprios at even money. You might as well just do that. So to cover all bases on the channel, while Andrew's got Trawlerman tipped up each way, I'll go Kyprios in the hope that I can get an odds-on winner.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one to weigh up, isn't it? Because I think we're all under the general consensus where, given the right conditions there, that Kyprios is just the best ability horse in this. But he's a bit of a thinker and he doesn't do a tap in front then, so you never know quite how much ability is fully there. And then the fact Trawlerman has got that verdict over him, that price is there to tempt you. It really is a head spinner for our opener there at Ascot. Right, the 155 is next up. The Group 1 British Champions Sprint Stakes 3-year-olds and over 6 furlongs. Good old Ross, he is heading the way at 11 to 2. Back in this race again, the old boy, now 7 years old, Dave. So you're going to take him on, or are you happy to leave him at that price?
Well, I'll just start off by saying I have sort of forgiven him now because he was 101 last year when he got beat by Art Power, and he was 101 for ages as well, even though obviously it all happens in a bit of a tap. 5 to 4 for the race last year, so 11 to 2 this time round. I think last year was 15 runners, wasn't it? When he won it, it was 18 runners, and it's back to 20 this year. Obviously, soft ground, we might get a couple taken out. But a few years back, when he was a big eye catcher, he was sort of squished and sandwiched for room, wasn't he? He did win it 2 years ago from stall 18, so I'm not so fussed about the draw, but I do wonder whether he potentially could get caught in a bit of a pocket again. And, you know, like I say, last year he was 101, got beat when arguably in a little bit of better form. So, like, he deserved to be there. He'd probably be like a little filthy each way bet, but I don't know. I want to try and find the winner, I think. Montasib obviously won that Haydock Sprint Cup. He beat Kinross in the Chip Chase Stakes, and he was all over Kinross. But we talked about it back then in the season that wouldn't have been the time to get Kinross, we didn't think. But Montasib was well on top. The horses that have come from the Haydock Sprint Cup that have come and won this, none of them have been the winner of that race. I think there's been 6 winners maybe, or at least 5 in the last 10 years. Most of them have been second as well, so that's quite curious for Kinda Blue that's been picked up by Wafnan Racing. They might be trying to get their money back. Another thing that I found interesting in this race was 7 of the last 8 winners hadn't already won a Group 1, so it does tick a few of these out the race. But the maddest thing I found with all of this, right, trying to look at it from like an analysis perspective and trying to be logical and methodical about it, why is audience in here? The horses, like, potentially we talked about him being like the new next best thing at the trip that he was running at. Then he flops last time out, doesn't he, when he gets smashed into 4 to 7 because Lake Forest was temperamental in the stalls and must have caused some sort of problem to audience. So we were saying there, look, maybe he is just that good. Beat Sharon at the start of the season, battered Art Power, I talked about, won this race last year when he was giving him a bit of weight at Goodwood. He just looked like he was a proper horse. So the drop back in trips, obviously, is a curious one because before he was gelded, he was exclusively raced at 7 to start, and then they dropped him back to 6, then dropped him back to 5. It's not ordinary you'd see that with a horse when they first start racing, especially when they start 7, that they start to just fall back. But they sort of dropped him back in trip, maybe last chance saloon, and then gelded him after. They can't do that again to him, can they? But I think the audience is like shown that he is a pretty good horse. He was as big as 25 to 1 when the shows first came up. He has been nibbled in. I think he's like general 10 to 1 poke or 12 to 1 top price. But I think I'm going to have to give him a go. I think in audience could definitely be there or thereabouts. I think he's got the class element in there. I said about the 7 of the last 8 haven't won a Group 1, but he's not the ordinary norm horse coming in here because he is dropping back in trip. So I think his audience I'll have to go with. I will just give one last mention to Swing Along that was I backed in that Sprint Cup, and I was disappointed with her, to be honest with you, and she hasn't won the Group 1, so I was trying to make a case for her to win this, but I think she's probably better on a little bit better ground, and Yeah, it just looks a bit of a. Well, it looks like a nice competitive race, but I think audience is going to take some more of our money. It was 4-7 for that City of York Stakes, wouldn't he, over 7 furlongs? I know it's a different trip, but surely he's got the ability to just go out and smack them in this.
Yeah, he's a right spanner in the works in this race, isn't he? Because you know the ability that he's got, but you think about the straight track at Ascot and going forwards and going to the lead isn't always a positive to see for all that. Of course, then in this race last year, it may have more so have been. But audience, though, with the drop back in trip, the extra stamina reserves. But I guess, is he going to be quick enough to get to the lead? You know, Andrew, audience is asking a whole load of questions then in this one, and he's really tricky to weigh up. But Dave, happy to go in with him. Who did you like?
Yeah, I've got audience on the shortlist. This is a fascinating race. I think the draw is going to have a massive impact here, and I think you're going to want to be low. Now, certainly at the last Ascot meeting, certainly at this meeting last year, and often at this meeting, the far side is favoured. And I really worry about stall 18 for Kyprios. I think that's going to be his undoing. You look at this race last year, Art Power was drawn in stall 1. We were all shocked about Art Power. I don't know, he's good at York. He's not really an Ascot horse. But you go back through a couple of years before that, he had won the race on the wrong side in this race. I think he was drawn high and he'd finished like, I don't know, sort of 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever it was. Did best of his group. Now, last year from stall 1, he raced virtually alone more towards the far side when everyone else was more towards the centre. This is obviously the first race of the meeting on the straight course. They'll race in a bit of a heap in the opener over 2 miles, and there's only 8 or 9 runners. And audience, we know he likes racing alone. He's certainly suited by doing that. Should have been a ring, the one horse between him and the inside rail, and there should have been a ring, tends to be a hold-up horse. And so I think audience is probably just going to sort of peel off and might be able to do what Art Power did last year and race sort of almost virtually solo, while the rest of the jockeys forget what happened at last year and at the last meeting and just sort of go down the middle like sheep. Now, Swing Along, Dave mentioned as well. Last year, Swing Along was drawn 3, but Swing Along actually came closer to the stand side rail and won the race of those who sort of took that route. But again, I'm not sure whether stall 13 is going to be ideal for him. But I wouldn't totally put you off Swing Along. And I wanted to be against the Haydock Sprint Cup form because there was a massive draw bias in that race where Montesab winning from stall 2. First 6 were drawn 2, 5, 6, 4, 8, and 3 of 16. Now, only 2 of the top 6 have run since, the 4th and 6th, but both got smashed, well beaten next time out, finishing on place. So that would worry me about that form line with the kind of blue Montesib. But the one I'm going to put up as the bet, I'll save an audience, but it's James's Delight from stall 7. It's basically ground dependent. And like you say, I wasn't aware of that stat about not having won a Group 1 before, but that was certainly James's Delight would certainly fall into that category. Trained by Clive Cox. He's had 4 runs on officially good to soft or soft to going over 6 furlongs. He's won them all. So that's in Britain. Last time out, it was officially very soft at Deauville, but it was more like good, I think, or something like that. So when he was a short neck behind Spy Catcher, so he loves getting his toe in. He's got a nice-ish draw in stall 7. He's got Ryan Moore on it, and he's around about 16-1. So that'll do for me. James's Delight over audience.
Over audience, so you agree with Dave on that part, and yeah, the potential spanner in the works in this race that audience sees, but James's Delight at 16-1, Clive Cox and Ryan Moore for Andrew. Right, the 235 is the Group 1 British Champions, fillies and mares stakes, 3-year-olds and over a mile 4. Kalpana is a clear favourite in this one at 2-1. It's 8-1 bar about the remainder, Andrew. So does she just go and win?
I don't know. I've not got a particularly strong opinion about this race. The horse that I was sort of drawn to was Time Lock, because she does seem to have a particularly strong preference for a certain time of year. She's had 6 runs in the high summer period, June to August. She's lost them all. She's had 6 runs in the spring or autumn outside of her seasonal debuts. She's won 4 of those 6. She did bomb out in this race last year, finishing 7th of 14, though she was very keen. So I thought she's settled better since then. She bounced back to form with a 5-length win in a first-time tongue-tied Newmarket last time on soft ground. So I'll go Time Lock for Harry Charlton and Rossett Ryan, but I've no particular strong opinion. Won't be having a bet.
10-1 though, so nice price, and most fans are 4 places on offer as well. Then, so ideal for that was a Time Lock for Andrew at 10. Dave, would you like?
I like Kalpana. I thought she was really, really good the last day. I sort of expected it. The market did as well. She was much bigger than the even money she went off, like on the early shows and even, I think, the morning of. But she was well backed, won like a good horse. And I know that was a Group 3, but I talked about it before that race. They'd waited with her a little bit. She'd not necessarily missed an opportunity, but she ran behind Port Fairy, didn't she, in the Ribblesdale when the ground was a bit too fast for her, probably. Had she have met the sort of ground that she's going to get in this race, I think she probably would have won that Ribblesdale, and then going for that Group 3 at a penalty wouldn't have been on the plan, and they probably would have still been thinking about coming to this. So her last couple of RPRs have been 112, 114. She gets weight from her elders as well, didn't she, for being a 3-year-old? And when I look at the elders in here, I don't really feel threatened by any of them. The only horse that would worry me a tiny bit would be Content for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. I think there's half furlong short of, or around about that. It's closer to 1 mile 3.5 than it is to 1 mile 4. Will suit Content, because as much as she's won at 1 mile 4 at York, and then she got beat in the Irish Oaks, didn't she, by You Got To Me, the half a furlong short probably will play to her strengths. But then is that now negated because of the fact that the goings changed a little bit? So she'd be my biggest worry in here. But I think Kalpana, 2-1, maybe she shouldn't be as short as that, but I think the bookies are probably scared because she got smashed last time. It may be that she drifts out a little bit, but I do think that she's on the right trajectory to go and win this one. She's the right favourite. Like I said, I'm hoping I can get a little bit bigger, but I will definitely be betting Kalpana to win the fillies and mares.
Yeah, like I say, that 2-1, it's not overly enticing, is it, in a race of this nature? But I agree, I think she's going to win. And I also agree that Content, despite still being her own worst enemy in the early stages, being keen there. And of course, she had the hood added last time out, yet she was still keen. Just couldn't make any impression from off of the pace. But her weirdly back up in trip, I actually think this will suit her much more. So, and she's the biggest danger as well. Right, the 3:15, the Group 1, Queen Elizabeth, the second stakes, 3-year-olds and over a mile. Good old Charon heads the way from Tamfana, the filly taking her chance in here. Factor Cheval, the wonderful story that goes with Prague. He's 10-1 shot, the 4th in the betting in this one. But Dave, Charon, though, heading the way. Does he confirm himself as Europe's best miler?
I don't know. I was nervous about this race anyway, because I know how much you love him. And I know, well, I don't know, but Andrew obviously was right about Tamfana last time. You like her too. I feel like I'm against both of them. But yeah, mad, isn't it? Like, Sharon looks like the type of horse that probably, like, on paper, you get Champions Day, people probably want to have a bet like they do most Saturdays anyway. And then sometimes I guess you're looking at these short ones and just thinking, who's probably the best of all the short ones? And a part of me feels like it could be this horse, but I don't know. There's just, I hadn't been expecting it as much as he's been doing it. I don't think you'd be getting this price about him, obviously, if he'd have won last time out, but he didn't. So that's helping punters as well. So there's just, I don't know what it is. There's just some sort of blocking me to say, for some reason, want to take Sharon on. I wasn't 100% sure who to do it with. Factor Cheval was the one that I put him up to beat him in the Queen Anne, wasn't it? And do you remember the uproar? Because that was one of the, I think that was the first race, wasn't it? The 2 French jockeys just went off on their own, and then everyone was slating them, saying there's obviously a bias on the inside. And then the next race, I think, was one on that far side. But it was just one of those races, wasn't it? Big Rock and Factor Cheval went over there, and as much as there was no bias on the side of the track that you should be on, it wasn't ideal, was it, to not be in with the pack, like the main pack of horses going in there. So I don't know with Factor Cheval whether the form of that Queen Anne is exactly literal. Like, I think Factor Cheval could have run a lot closer. He's obviously a much bigger price to do so this time. So that price-wise lures me in a little bit. But then you look at who he's drawn with as well. There is a chance that the jockey just does something stupid again, because you've got Sharon and Tamfana drawn a few stalls away. So I think once bitten, twice shy with Factor Cheval. The one that I do like, I've always wanted to see him on like softish ground, it was Henry Longfellow, and I can't believe that he's 12-1. So I think, all things said, he's going to be the one that I'm going to come down on. He's been pretty good over in the summer, isn't he? He run a couple of races, both on good to firm. When he got beat by Rosalian, I thought it was a pretty good effort, but Rosalian was sort of well on top at the finish. But he just got beaten by a better horse. Obviously, Sharon's in the same sort of caliber as a Rosalian, but I think Henry Longfellow being 12-1 based on that line of form is just mad. The run after against Notable Speech at Goodwood as well. He was pestered at the front, wasn't he? He was pretty keen, and he was pestered at the front by Sonny Liston, who probably had no right to be in the race anyway, but just messed it up for him. And then he went off to Longchamp last time after a little bit of a break, not anything massive, and then just went about his business and did something. What I find interesting is when he ran that good race at Ascot, he went to Longchamp, and although he was beaten favourite, a bit disappointing, he just did his own thing there, and then came into Ascot, looked quite good. He's always looked like a horse that would appreciate a bit of given at underground as well. So those 2 runs I've talked about, Ascot and Goodwood, that are both in their own right pretty decent, I think, especially the Ascot run. They were both on good to firm, which shouldn't have suited him. So I think Henry Longfellow at 12 to 1 just looks too big a price. I will just moan though. I know we've only got 13 runners. It's Champions Day and the bookies aren't giving us 4 places on this. So shame on you bookmakers. I want 4 places for Henry Longfellow to come 4, because that's probably where he'll come. But I think I'd rather play him each way than get right stuck into Sharon, although I wouldn't want to put people off doing that.
Yeah, the 3 places on offer then with all firms there as well, 5th of the odds. For Henry Longfellow to potentially finish 4th then at 12 to 1 for Dave. Andrew, how are you playing it?
Yeah, Dave, what do you want? Blood? 4 places with an 11 to 8 favourite in the group race? Goodness me. Get away.
Oh, he doesn't want much. Give him that 4th place at least.
I think Sharon could be vulnerable. The FDF factor's a worry. He's riding abysmally at the moment, and I think he was running about a 5% strike rate in September. In August, crept up to about 10 or 11% in September. He's obviously been off the track for a while. And not been riding for a while, has he, SDS? I think he's got 4 rides at Newcastle on Friday, so it's his fitness has to be questioned. And the draw could have an impact as well if there is, as I suspect and hope, a low draw bias. Stall 8, I suppose, is better than some, but it still might not be ideal. I do worry about stall 13 for Prague, particularly if the champion sprint suggests that you want to be far side. So I was looking at some of those drawn low. I mean, Factor Cheval, I thought ran a massive race to finish 6th in the Queen Anne. It wasn't really a case of where he raced on the track. It's the fact that he only raced with one other. They took each other on. They went up too quick. You look at what happened to the front runners in that race, Big Rock, Audience, and Factor Cheval, they've all finished unplaced. And of the 2 that took each other on the far side, Sharon and Big Rock, Sharon was almost 15 lengths clear of Big Rock, so that was good effort. The Goodwood run next time out, I was a little underwhelmed by, and because you always worry that after winning his first 4 starts, he's only gone 2 from 12 since, including 1 from 11 in Europe. And that was in Group 3 company. So he does seem to find ways of getting beat, but at 9 to 1 each way, if you could get 4 places on the day, then certainly won't put you off. I thought the Store 1 runner, is it Quddwah for Simon and Ed Christopher, that had a chance. So you look at his record, 4 from 4 on his first 4 starts, and then behind Sharon at Deauville, when unsuited by the sort of stop-start steady pace of a French race. Sharon was prominent, the runner-up Metropolitan, track leader, and it was Inspire and Quddwah who sort of did best of those who were coming from off the pace in 3rd and 4th. So a stronger pace will suit that one. Sirona isn't out of it either. Sirona tends to come good around this time of year. She's won 4 times in her career. All in September, October, apart from a sort of 28th of August, which was, a maiden win at Beverley. And they've tended to be with plenty of cut in the ground as well, albeit in small fields. But I guess if they do split into 2 distinct groups, then she could end up racing with just sort of 6 or 7 more towards the far side. So I'm just going to play the draw here and back Quddwah and Sirona each way, coming up to stalls 1 and 2.
1 and 2 then to come to the fore, and nice prices as well. Sirona's 50 to 1, and the Quddwah, 14 to 1 then in stall 1 for Quddwah as well. Yeah, interesting that. I did feel like I've seen SDS for a while, Sylvester de Souza. He had that lengthy whip ban, 24 days that he had, but he was due to come back on the 13th of October. So he just had a few more rides back.
He hasn't ridden yet this month.
No.
As far as I could tell, and I looked at the decks, and he's got 4 rides at Newcastle on Friday, and that's it before he turns up at Champions Day riding a short price favourite, having been on his arse for the last 2 months anyway in terms of strike rate. So
that's it. The first ride he's got back on turf now for a good while. I mean, the suspension covered the periods between the 27th of September then the 5th of October, but resuming on the 7th till the 13th of October because a day of no flat racing then there. So the fact that he's returning from basically, I say, a month out, and his first, even though he's got those 4 rides on the all-weather at Newcastle, his first ride back on turf is in a Group 1 on the favourite Sharon. That's not ideal though at all. I'm still going to stick with him despite that massive clangor then here, just to hopefully prove that he is the best miler in Europe. And I know that Tribalist beat him last time, Matt, but we know what a farce of a race that was, the Group 1 Prix de Moulin, and Tribalist given a perfect front-running ride by Mikel Barcelona. And for all that, I don't actually blame the jockeys in behind. It was just one of those annoying racing incidents where everything conspires against those in behind, and a big price horse who makes all and gets away from his rivals. And even the usually very measured Roger Varian, hey Kiwi, was still very measured and very magnanimous in defeat. I'm saying this as I'm talking into a cat's backside here. But even he shows some frustration.
Better than talking out of one.
I know, to be fair, maybe this is all I need to know about my tip right now is Kiwi's bum in my face. But yeah, fair play to Sharon though for still managing to run him down to be beaten just over a length or the same. And I actually thought that enhanced his profile, so I'm hoping he will be crowned on Saturday as the best miler in Europe. Right, the 355 up next, the Group 1 Champion Stakes, 3-year-olds and over 10 furlongs. We get the head-to-head battle between Economics and Calandagan for France. So, Andrew, it is Britain versus France. Who wins?
This is an absolute belter. I think of the two, I just prefer Economics, who's on the up. I like the way he's been campaigned, avoiding the Derby. I was impressed with that win in the Irish Champion Stakes after he's after he's sort of come from off the pace around the outside and it's not fallen for the sort of Ballydoyle tactics they tried to employ against him. Calandagan, it's just, that was a great run behind City of Troy at York. There is a suspicion that he might be better on faster ground, though. You look at the Ascot win and the York run; they both come on very fast conditions. So I know he has won on officially heavy ground, but that was went sort of 2-1 on in Group 3 company. So it's just as a slight question mark over the ground for him. Of the others, the two I was interested in who love the mud are Royal Rhyme, who I've been going on about for a while this season. I've sort of said, if a few times he's been a non-runner. I said, if he runs or if the ground changes to sort of genuinely good to soft or soft, he'd have a squeak. He's had 6 runs on the officially good to soft or soft to go in 5 wins and a 5th. Now the 5th came in this race last year when it's 16 to 1 shot. He failed to settle, did too much too soon, set the race up for the closers. So he's only been 5 lengths, and he's improved £3 since on official ratings. So if he doesn't go hell for leather and it is genuinely soft, it doesn't dry out too much, then Royal Rhyme at 50 to 1 would be one of the each way calls. Or certainly there's going to be markets without the big 2 or without Economics, at least I would have thought. So I'd back Royal Rhyme each way, back him without the favourite and without the front 2 in the betting. And the other one as well is Novus, because our old mate for Gary and Josh Moore, who, if it was heavy, you'd be all over this at 100 to 1, but then he'd probably be sort of 33s. And he loves the mud. He's up in class, but he has acquitted himself well in group company previously, and he's going to be ridden for a place. It's one of those sort of Tashkhan type bets, that back something each way at sort of 50 to 1 plus. It's just going to be ridden out the back of the tally to come through and try and finish third. So I'll go Royal Rhyme and Novus each way and without the front 2.
Nice. 50 to 1 about Royal Rhyme and 100 to 1 about Novus, but different ways to play it in the without markets when they come to the fore as well. But with each way alternative as well. Therefore, Andrew, Dave, who'd you like?
I like loads in it. Like Andy said, this is a proper decent race. I'm really excited about this one. It's one of those that I think frustratingly, like the market's probably got it about-ish right. So Calandagan's run, like Andrew said, and that judgment was decent. Last horse to do the judgment, well, I say the judgment and this race double actually won the judgment, didn't they? Was Frankel. So I don't think Calandagan's in that caliber. But the run behind City of Troy was good because I think a lot of people thought he was going to get to him and he was going to beat him, but he didn't really get past or even onto his hindquarters before City of Troy dug out a little bit more. But I think that's probably, for me, the first time I've seen a horse go up and ask the question of City of Troy, and it benefited us because we got to see just how good he was. So I think that was an incredibly good performance. Economics run was equally as good in that Irish Champion Stakes, although visually maybe wouldn't have looked as good. Obviously, Economics did actually get his head in front and won the race. Beat August Rodin though, didn't he? So he's obviously a very good horse, August Rodin, but we know he can be a little bit of a scallion at sometimes. But the Economics ride was good. I think lots potentially went wrong with him. It's hard for there's loads of horses that have come from Irish Champion Stakes and won this in the past. It's like there's enough time in between. It's 35 days, all that stuff, and they've obviously kept him with the Derby, but that must have taken a bit out of him, that run in the Irish Champion Stakes. The same as Calandagan, it might have taken a bit out of him in that Judgment, but he has been sort of weighted with. So the market can barely split him. They're 6-4, 13-8. I wouldn't want to pick a preference between the two of them. When I did start to try and see if I could find a bit of an each way in, Los Angeles is better. Like, he probably wants 1 mile 3 or maybe 1 mile 5 or something, just because he wouldn't have to go against the caliber of him. But he ran all right in the Irish Champion Stakes, but he's got no chance of reversing the form based on that, has he? So I just feel like I want to find a way to bet on this race because it's such a good race, but I don't think I can. I think I'm gonna have to sit back and just enjoy it, because I think Economics Calandagan Clash could be one for the ages.
Yeah, hopefully we will get that. And with those two horses coming to the fore in the clothing stages, it's everything that we want to see from that Group 1. Now we're going to switch to the final race of the day, a nice easy one to sign off with. So no get out of jail in the last card by any means for this one. Balmoral handicap, 3-year-olds and over a mile at 4:35. Dave, you've got 7-1 the field. So yeah, you don't want to be saving everything for the last anyway.
Well, definitely not, especially not with my tactic in this race, because if the audience doesn't make me look stupid for dropping back in trip, then Popmaster's going to make me look like a right idiot for going up to 1 mile. But last time I put him up in that Challenge Cup earlier this month for this meeting, Safi Osborne was on the board. I can't remember exactly the price was when I tipped him, maybe 25s, or I feel like he was 25s or maybe even 33s, but went down to single figures.
You can have 40s with me, Dave. You have 40s.
But that he got back down to single figures, and I was thinking, well, the money's down. I plotted this horse. Obviously, it was like a couple of pound difference from where he finished in that race last year, and then he was terrible. And I don't know whether it was. I don't think it was the ground, because I think he's got 4 turf wins, hasn't he? 3 of them have been on like good to soft, or 2. One's been on good to soft, and 2 have been on soft. So the ground didn't really seem a problem. They definitely put some money behind him as well. So I'd have to just maybe stupidly chalk a line through that one, because I think he's much better than that. And I don't know whether it's desperation they've come for this race, or whether this was a mini bit by design. But you'd think for a horse that's had 39 starts, they wouldn't be having their 40th at a new distance. But Popmaster's lured me in because they've also thrown Safi Osborne off. And as much as I made a positive case for her riding, Ross Coakley's been on this horse 7 times, I think, 3 times in Pattern Company, won a listed race on soft ground, and then twice in Group 2s. And as much as he was well beaten, he had horses behind, and he was priced as though he was going to get beaten out of sight, so didn't run terribly. And then in the handicaps, I think he's had 4 runs, 3 seconds, and a 6th, but the 6th came on really heavy ground as well. So the pairing clearly get on very well. I think he's probably going to be nibbled again. My big annoyance with this one, I guess, with him is he got smashed last time, so I'm worried it might happen again. He's top price 18-1 at the moment. I would hope that we'd get bigger than that. I'd hope, because we're taking a chance on him for the trip and everything, we'd be getting closer to 25s, 33s. But I will definitely be stupidly throwing a little bit more money at Popmaster probably. But I'm also going to have to just have a bet on Thunder Run as well, because when he won last time out, he looked like a horse that had loads in hand. Only went up £4 for that. He was beaten odds on favourite in a handicap the time before. And now Ryan Moore's been jocked up to ride Thunder Run in here. They've waited with him a little bit for this race. The £4 rise looks easily within his grasp. Top price 7-1, but as low as 5-1. I wouldn't, obviously I'd back the 7-1, but I wouldn't mind backing him as low as 5-1. I'm just toying with whether I might have like a scummy each way on him, or whether I'd have the straight win, but I'll definitely bet Thunder Run. Interestingly, 9 of the last 10 renewals of this, the winners come from stall 11 or lower. Thunder Run's drawn in stall 21, but the horse that busted those stats for the last 10 years was drawn in stall 21 as well. So 10 of the last 10 winners were drawn in stall 11 or lower, or in 21. So Thunder Run and Popmaster are fine on that stat as well.
Thunder Run, sorry, if you can also see Kiwi again here, if she's in vision. She was fascinated, Dave, by your case made there for Thunder Run and Popmaster. And at least with Popmaster, the positive for him is that he's coming out of that 7 furlong Ascot Heritage Handicap that has produced 3 of the last 5 winners of this race, I want to say. Yeah, I think that's about right. So at least that's a positive, and he was backed in that, but obviously didn't run accordingly. So he's now an 18-1 shot, so a nice big price to go at for Dave. Andrew, who'd you like?
I sort of coming at it from the same angle as Dave, going with the draw. Yeah, in the last 10 years, 9 of the winners were drawn in stall 10 or lower. It looks like stall 11 or lower, but when Shalia won it at a big price, There was a non-runner. One of the reserves was a non-runner who had been allocated one of the lowest stalls. So you can back every horse drawn 10 or lower and make a profit. Those and also there's another interesting angle regarding a recent run. All 10 winners in the last 10 years had raced between 1 and 27 days ago. Those who'd been off for 28 days or longer are 0 from 72. So it's 10 from 132 for those who'd had a very recent run. If you combine the draw 10 or lower with a race within the last 27 days, 9 winners from 94 bets, profit of £111. Now the expected number of winners based on their prices was only 3.3, so that's sort of well above expectations. Even take out Shalia's 80-1 win, and it's still a good profit. So I just went through the low draw ones. I mean, Bopedro coming out of stall 3, raced 14 days ago. I mean, age-wise, he seems just as good as ever at the age of 8, and he placed in that 7 furlong handicap here at the last meeting. I thought he'd run another good race. Carrytheone, it's coming out of stall 5. Again, he'll be on the premises late. Christophe Simeon on board, probably an upgrade from Jamie Spencer. Popmaster, obviously a doubt about the trip, but a nice draw in 7. Mexicali Rose, stall 8. Holloway Boy, stall 9, has been off the track longer than ideal, but I tipped him up last time thinking that the jockey change with William Buick being a big jockey upgrade, and after a run of frustrating placed efforts, Buick managed to persuade him to get his head in front last time. But yeah, I've not looked at the pace angle. Remember last year it was there weren't many front runners, and it was the gatekeeper for Charlie Johnson who was sort of always up there. So I do need to look at the pace angle. But in terms of what we know about draw and recent run, 2 horses each way. Bopedro Carrytheone with marginal preference for Bopedro, around about 16-1.
Oh, okay, well, I'll give the marginal preference to Carrytheone then. I was hoping that it was going to still just find its way back to Carrytheone, much to Dave's delight then about pesky old Carrytheone in here as well. I'm hoping that after everyone who's sided with him all season, when he's caused his own luck or misfortune, whatever, that he's going to sign off and proper mug off everyone as well there, and winning at 12-1 for so many of the aforementioned trends and stats. And he too ran in that 7 furlong heritage handicap at Ascot a couple of weeks ago, finishing 6th, doing really well in that, running off the same mark here, and hopefully won't find too much trouble to get into. And Christophe Simeon can weave him through. Right, Andrew, back to you please for anything from anywhere else.
No, I have had a look at Catterick and Stratford, but nothing stuck out at this stage.
Of course, Catterick and Stratford away from British Champions Day. Dave, I genuinely forget what other meetings are on Saturday away from this, but did you have anything else?
No, I had a look at Limericks. They got a couple of listed races, but Jatara will win at short odds. But other than that, just stick to Ascot, innit? It's good enough racing there.
It's very, very good racing. So what's your nap going to be, Dave?
I'm going to go with Kalpana in the fillies and mares, please.
Okay, Kalpana it is then, and there's bigger prices about the remainder. Not needed, Kalpana to go and win yet again. Andrew, your nap.
I'm going for James's delight in the big sprinty thing. Yeah, let's hope those low numbers are favoured.
Oh, a big sprint to go at then, and a nice price as well. I'm just going to reiterate that price, 16-1 about James's delight. And I'm going to go Charon to be crowned the best miler in all of Europe. Hopefully so, and hopefully we don't get too many upsets on Champions Day. We want to see these champions at their very best and live up to that name. Right, that's everything from us on this week's show. So a big thank you to Andrew and today for all of their hard work as per usual. Big thank you to you for watching. Best of luck with your bets this weekend, and we'll be back again next week.